Kings of Leon, California waiting here on Blogs on Balls, all part of our Rocking Rock Tuesday theme. Sean, you enjoying the music this week?
I think it's right up my style.
Right up your style. Billy, how about you?
Yeah, I think you kicked off with one that was slightly suspect, but you've moved along nicely.
Yeah, I ignored that.
Come on, it had a really good building intro. I needed it. Guys, this is radio technique. I learned this from Darren. Okay, Billy, we're going to bring you slightly earlier this week. We're going to have Icon of the Week. Sean, we're going to kick off with a couple of nominations. You got them there with you.
I think the three nominations that we should go for this week's Blogs on Balls Icon of the Week is...
Can I nominate one quickly?
Okay, Darren's come in to nominate one.
Just give you some inside info here. And one who has to be an Icon of the Week is Tank Lanning. Tell you why, because I try to phone him now. Since you guys started the show, he's not answering his call because he's listening to blogs. So Tank, please return your calls.
Of course, listen to blogs. Tank, lovely to have you listening to us. As you can see, we've come a long way, and I'm sure you have too. We're not ships in the night. We're merely in the same ocean.
And you'll hear everything from today's show on his Wednesday show on the other station.
Oh, nice one. Sean, you want to get back to those nominations before we start?
Right, so number one is Tank Lanning, apparently.
Tank Lanning, well done.
Colin Ingram, hope to be one for his century against Pakistan.
Yeah, it's really great to see him actually play a part in that team. It adds so much more strength now.
Jeez, and sometimes he's looked scratchy when he's bad for us in the past, but when he gets flowing, he's a really, really talented player.
He's
really easy on the eye, classical style. He's great.
Steady, Sean.
Easy on the eye.
You guys, my word. Tiger Woods, suppose, has to get a mention.
Fair enough. We've already dedicated a song to him, so that might go against his judging process. But yeah, a really good win for him. Massive.
And I found it difficult to pick an individual out of the weekend of Super Rugby to get nominated for Icon of the Week, but I would think we would have to go with Mo Diouf for that incredible goal he scored for Supersport United on the weekend.
The guy landed for, 60 meters?
That's like a 60-meter kick.
Billy, you catch that one?
No.
Such a stalwart of local football. I can't believe you missed it.
Give it a look on download it somewhere. Have a look on Supersport Blitz.
Yeah.
It is a killer goal to watch.
You can just go into YouTube and find it. Basically, the ball came back from a scrappy goalmouth sort of tussle. It broke towards middle of their half, and he just booted it for 60 meters. Soft cut, top right corner. Oh, it was a thing
Flying
to behold.
in.
So, as much as I appreciate individual brilliance in that scale, I don't think he's going to win it today.
No, worth a mention, though.
Very much worth a mention. What about, speaking of worth a mention, how about those Bangladeshis? Firstly, they're not going to lose this test, which is a winner. For them, that is.
Jeez, you've used the term test very loosely there.
Apparently, you don't want to be a bowler in that test. They've scored like 3,000 runs and 8 wickets on both sides.
Yeah, I think we've just clicked over the 1,600 mark. And there have been 18 wickets, I think, in this test match in 5 days.
Yeah, no, I tweeted Sean this morning and said, I think even old Gerhardus Lietenberg would have got a ton over there.
One of my favorite stats in this test match is Mohammad Ashraful, the Bangladeshi batsman, scored 190.
Yeah.
His average moves to 24.
Belting. So, Billy, are you saying that Sputter Diplomat can get a double 100 in this test then?
I think that could be on the cards. It's just, that thing is seriously flat out there.
Okay, so we mentioned those. For me, Tiger's win was huge, especially going into the Masters. But for me, Colin Ingram, he's really sort of announced like he is going to be a stalwart of this team going forward, and I think he should be Icon of the Week based on his fantastic 100 in Bloom.
Vote for that too.
Yep, Billy.
Yeah, I'll definitely give him my vote. I think it was a great inning.
Okay, congratulations, Colin Ingram. Your star is flashing brighter than ever.
Joining an elite group of athletes.
You're joining an elite group of athletes. Tristan Williams, I think his name was. Let's just call him Tristan. That was last week's winner. Richard Stoney and Werner Philander are our previous Icons of the Week, and now you join that prestigious list. Billy, we're off to the Sports Willie of the Week, and who caught your eye?
As always, there's a couple of candidates we need to get through here. I think special mention to the Athletics South Africa, who have now impeached their president.
These guys are so good. Hey? They're consistently on this list.
Yeah, they are fantastic. Maybe we need to look at the criteria for Sport Willie and actually say that sports federations can't be nominated,
even though they try so hard.
They seem to have taken it very seriously, and they give it a serious crack each week. But ASA is a beautiful creature. Impeach their president. I see Geraldine Pillay has been, calling for legal action and a whole bunch of things. And I'm not sure in which capacity, she's been asking for Henrik Ramala to resign. That's right. Who's not the president at the moment, but he's involved, and I mean, it gets too complicated. I think only Graham Joffe understands it.
Okay. Next.
So that's ASA.
I think Graham Joffe's a double agent in ASA. He knows too much.
Yeah, no, he's definitely got a mole in there somewhere. a ginger mole.
No.
He's certainly not going to let this issue go, is he?
No.
No.
Okay. Next up.
So yeah, next up we've got. I suppose it depends which side of the fence you sit on. Mickey Arthur or Shane Watson. Yeah,
Can we not have both?
Yeah, we can definitely put both forward.
Like I know who my winner is in my mind, but carry on.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I mean, I think those are pretty self-explanatory. Mickey Arthur for acting like a headmaster, and as Mark Waugh said, dealing with the guys like they're playing under six cricket, not Test cricket. And Shane Watson for talking about retirement and contemplating his future. And
that is the most cliched sporting rant. I'm contemplating my future. No, you play cricket. You're going to contemplate your next game.
This is a wonderful example, folks, of how it's not always just one side is right and one side is wrong. There are lots of people acting like kids in this scenario for me.
Yeah.
So sometimes two willies butt heads, Sean.
So, Billy, are those your three nominations, or do you have something else?
And then I've got it's a little bit of an out there nomination, but I've after having attended the rugby on Saturday, I would say aspects of the crowd at Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium. I'm not sure if you've seen the video of the fight that erupted.
No.
But yeah, Tank actually tweeted it out earlier. I hadn't seen it, but I actually saw it at the stadium.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just really atrocious behaviour.
Well, a fight between Sharks and Kings fans.
Yeah. I mean, who would have thought?
Kings are bringing new things to this tournament week by week.
Well, I have to say, the biggest culprit, and probably from the look of that video, would have to be the Kings fan that throws his beer on the Sharks fan. I mean, that's certainly not acceptable.
You don't waste beer in general in life, but that's just not on.
But in all seriousness, atrocious behaviour. Try and have a look at that video. I mean, the whole sort of main stand was standing and trying to watch this fight while the game was going on. I mean, it was shocking. But anyway, let's hope that the hooligans get dealt with. And also, I thought, I was sitting there and being the sort of quiet, non-opinionated guy that I am, I didn't say too much, but the booing of Pat Lambie was absolutely shocking. I mean, there's your Springbok flower lining up for goal.
Yeah.
And I mean, the guys were. I can't actually tell you what some of the guys around me were shouting at Lambie. It was atrocious, and I mean, really don't need that. I said to the guys I was watching with, I said, I've actually never. I might be wrong, but I've never heard Dan Cotter get booed in New Zealand. Doesn't matter who he's playing against. You know what I mean?
No, it's ridiculous. I think it's naivety of the Kings crowd. They'll come right when they get in the tournament again in 2014.
There's really got to be more like kind of stadium effort in the stadiums to get the booing of kickers
under
control.
We've spoken about this, actually starting like a booing campaign against it, because it's just common.
They've made efforts at Loftus down the years, and it has made an impression. I think I certainly heard a lot of booing at Ellis Park. But the difference is it wasn't so.
Yeah, but Sean, we've also touched on this on Twitter. As soon as you become anonymous as part of a group, people just think they have the right to go and just mouth off and be dicks.
But I really think
because the stadium announcer was. I mean, it got a little bit American football at one stage because
was he shouting defense or something?
Yeah, defense. Defense. I mean, I was sitting there sort of checking my pulse and wondering if the game was going to go on for 3 hours. But
okay, but we have to wrap up the Willie there. So you thrust forth your winner.
Yeah. I'm picking the guys in the crowd at Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium. I mean, most of them were fantastic, but it's always that small element. Yeah.
Well, very interesting. We'll try to get a link out there of the fight. You say Tank tweeted it.
Yeah, it's.
It was at Tank Lanning, or was it at Front Row Grunt, or was it at?
I think it was actually.
It was at Tank's Rugby Violence now seen.
It was at Front Row Grunt Rugby Violence.
Okay, so at Front Row Grunt on Twitter, go check his feed and you'll see all the details on that. So there we go, Icon of the Week, Colin Ingram, and then on the other side, the Sports Willie of the Week is the fans at the Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium, cheering on the Kings, booing Pat Lambie. We're going to go for another song. When we come back, we've got our discussion for the week. A bit of a sort of lesser spoken aspect. Our discussion this week is about old school coaching tactics and if they do have a place in the modern era. We all think so, very much so, and Billy, being 65 years old, I know he sounds much younger, but he's not, he'll take us back to some real vintage sporting icons and how they've all just used old school tactics to get ahead of the opposition. We've got one more song, Black Keys, coming up now with Lonely Boy. Black Keys, Lonely Boy. Welcome back to the last 40 minutes of Blogs on Balls, every Tuesday from 10 until 12. Your favorite internet radio show between 12 and 2 every Tuesday. Billy, I just watched, you just tweeted the link of that fight at the King Sharks game. Quite hectic, huh?
Yeah, I mean, like I say, it was hectic. I mean, it was the sort of other side of the stand from me, but I mean, you suddenly saw literally the whole stands kind of stood up to see what was going on. You know, all the everyone likes to have a good look and see. But yeah, I mean, there's no real place for that. Apparently, that whole thing revolved around people sitting in other people's seats.
Oh gosh.
Which, yeah.
Well, there's a guy, the two guys with the stripy shirts here look like the biggest sort of instigators here. Jeez, some big punches going in. Anyway, let's not focus on the crass elements of sport. Let's get into our discussion for the week, and that is old school coaching techniques. Now, Billy, I was just saying to Sean earlier in the show that David
sorry, man. I just see Richie Benayes just tweeted the link of that fight and said, "This is the crowd hearing the news that Steve Smith will play in the next test."
Oh, quality. Oh, that guy's brilliant. We're just talking about Campo and his rantings. Now, I think he actually responded to one of your tweets of the week. Campo goes on, but his the reasons for going on are actually quite sound. He's talking about rugby basics and how players aren't doing them. Is this because we get coaches and are coming into it and they're just trying to be very fancy, or is it just the players that are basically not, adapting to the game? What do you reckon it really is? Kick us off here.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously, I mean, any game of sport, I think the basics are going to be important. I think one of my things with sport nowadays is that there's so much emphasis on the mental side, and it's not to say that I don't think it's important, but there's a whole lot of player empowerment, which I agree with to a degree. I mean, I know I got slagged off a bit because I didn't agree with the fact that the Proteas were going to the Chili Peppers concert.
Yeah.
The day before a game, and people said, they're grown men, let them do what they want, and they still had a curfew and they had to leave early, but for me there's a bit of a line. I suppose I'm somewhere in between.
Yeah. Well, I would just like to bring an example just to kind of start this sort of discussion, is that when you look at old school coaching techniques, a lot of them don't get noticed. Remember that guy when Australia were really, really good? I think his name was John Buchanan. You never heard of this guy, but he was that...
The cricket team, they were putting the Art of War quotes under the hotel room doors and stuff like that.
What?
He would write inspirational haikus for them.
Okay.
It was just
that's pretty old school, because inspiration is a big deal in sport. Anyway, this guy, you never ever heard of him, so obviously he was just keeping under the radar. Now, let's fast forward to today. The Australian team is crap, as we now know. They're going to the Ashes, and they're about to take a pretty decent beating, I think we can all say. And what's at the forefront of that? Mickey Arthur. Now, when we sort of batted out that second test against them, Brisbane?
Yeah,
Adelaide
was the second one, yeah.
Mickey Arthur has a theory that a bowler should only bowl so many overs, whether it be in the nets or in the middle, okay? Now, this sounds new age and progressive. It's not, it's bullshit. So basically what happened is these guys bowled themselves into a standstill. They had a completely new bowling attack. But the thing is, Mickey was always like, they've bowled too much, we can't go forward. None of this like assessing the players and that kind of stuff. Sure, Siddle broke down because he's a vegetarianist and he couldn't recoup. But he's a prime example of how he's trying to sort of reinvent the wheel. And the whole thing about selection processes and the rotation of this, and now with this whole homework assignment, do you think guys like that could be the detriment of teams?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think this homework thing is a load of twaddle. I mean,
Yeah.
it's it really just stems of I know that there's sort of undertones that there was things that have gone on before this. I don't know if you saw the quote by Pat Howard, the high performance manager. He said he knows Shane Watson quite well, and most of the time he's a team man. That kind of it was something along those lines, but that sort of summed it up. That he's obviously not a team player. You know? But yeah, I think the guys do take it to the extreme, and I think a lot of coaches almost try and be a little bit too clever nowadays. I mean, that whole rotating the bowling attack was a perfect example.
Yeah.
It was never going to work, to bring in a new attack.
I'm just going to touch on your Shane Watson point here. Do you not think then as well, sorry Sean, you are part of this discussion. you can take this one, okay, but this is to both of you. Do you not think that with players becoming more sort of prima donna-ish, and the IPL obviously is, perverting the lines of integrity in sport, do you not think there's more of a need now for old school coaching just to kind of like almost steady the ship? Like these guys don't need to be constantly having smoke blown up their ass about this and that and having these stupid selection things. Surely just hard and fast, tried and tested tactics would be the best in this era.
Look, one thing I think that must be mentioned with this incident, while dropping the guys over not doing this homework assignment looks incredibly over the top, it did look a seriously simple thing to do that the guys just didn't do.
Sure.
And it's disrespectful. Now,
It's
I'm not
homework.
saying
We're
that they
talking
should
Shane Watson here.
Talking
Yeah.
Shane-
Yeah, I know they don't have a culture of, well, reading and writing, but it's quite a simple thing that they were asked to do. It was hardly a major PowerPoint presentation that these guys, they just wanted to come up with 3 points. So, while I do think dropping them is over the top, I do think there's been a lot of guys acting like real knobs, And
Well, as alt cricket suggested, Steve Smith apparently did as on post-it notes.
I heard you could even do it verbally. You just had to speak to Mickey Arthur to do it.
You said to show you made an effort. I think Steve
Yeah.
Smith actually put it into a keynote, and he did have smoke, and
So basically, I mean, it is one, and
he hired out a banquet hall in the hotel to present it.
and the results were awful. Like some of the worst streak we've had in Australian history for ages.
Sure,
now.
and they don't look
So,
like they're going to win at any stage.
And now you got your vice captain and 3 other players just taking a couple of days off and showing that they really just couldn't care about putting
Okay,
some
well-
effort into thinking about it. Where I think dropping them is excessive.
What about this? Let's say the series was at 1-1. Do you think Arthur would have dropped the guys? I don't think so.
No, I don't
so.
think so either. No, but that's what I'm saying. I do think dropping them is over the top.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't. But that's not to say that that type of approach is necessarily should just be shunted from the sport.
Okay, well, seeing as we're all having a good knock on Mickey, because he's brilliant to this discussion point, do you then think that a lack of old school fundamental coaching is a lack of respect now? These guys, they're getting told all these different things. A lot of it doesn't make sense, and they're thinking, well, screw this guy. Comes in here with these stupid ways and sorcery. I don't care about this guy.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's sometimes you do see the coaches and the players are very familiar, you know what I mean? And it takes a special kind of coach to be able to step out of that when discipline is needed in a situation like this. And I think, if you look back at Mickey Arthur and Graham Smith's relationship, I remember that coming under some strain over the years, because I think Graham Smith's a very strong captain. And I think Mickey was, he was one of those guys that, he slotted in quite nicely in the change room, I think. Not sure about the showers, but like he just looked at it very comfortable with the guys, and they were all sort of mates. And then I think when the shit sort of hit the fan, him and Graham had a few altercations. It looked like from the outside, at least.
Was that when you called him Graham and not Mr. Smith?
Exactly. I mean, it looked pretty much like Graham was running things, not Mickey. But so it seems strange from that point of view that suddenly now he's taking this hard line. Maybe he let things slip before that.
I think he did.
But also, this is more of a squad. This Australian squad is a far easier squad to headmaster, let's say, than what he was faced with the South African squad under Graham Smith.
What do you mean? They've all got tattoos and a criminal record.
Yeah.
No, in the sense that he doesn't have to fight big senior players to deal with. Now they've dealt with such a huge drain in Australia.
Sounds like he's herding cats at the moment, though.
Yeah. So like he's got Michael Clark and a few other guys that just don't seem to step up as senior players. Who else has we got to challenge Mickey's authority, really, other than just kind of petulantly not do their work?
No, I don't know. Like, I don't think we should deviate past this, but I think we should get to a point of where are we seeing great sort of exponents of old school coaching in. I think we'll see it more in rugby than we will in cricket. I think cricket's become quite technical, And because it does rely on individual sort of abilities, I think we will see things deviating a bit. Like, I know in rugby, because it's a team thing, you need to be quite strong and structured. Cricket, you can go and hike in the Alps and do that kind of crap. So who do you think is actually sort of the best sort of exponent of this currently in sport?
I think old school coaches that have been hugely successful. I mean, the first guy that springs to mind is Graham Henry.
Yeah.
Who, you know, Mr. Headmaster himself. And I mean, you won't find a more acclaimed or awarded rugby coach
Sure.
ever. I would probably say. The guy was unbelievable. I think on the local scene, a guy like John Plumtree. Listen, he might not have racked up as many trophies as he would like, but I mean, the Sharks they've always been in contention. You know?
Really? I thought, just judging by Sharks fans on Twitter, you guys win a trophy every year.
Most vocal supporters, maybe. But yeah, you know, he's pretty old school, and then you get the sort of extreme, which is probably a guy like John Mitchell, who
Sure.
sort of takes it to the next level. And you know, it sounds like he, yeah.
But the thing is that they both had success, and I think what happened was that they then had to deviate for player interest, you know, and then that's where it fell down. I think if they're stuck on that sort of hard and fast, old school like kind of game plan, I think that both of those teams would have been better off.
Yeah, I mean, another guy that springs to mind is Jake White. Very structured, very, you know, also a school teacher at heart. Huh?
Oh, completely, especially in those classes.
He's going for the more the professor look these days, I think. But I mean, look what he's done with the Brumbies, and that's a bunch of young guys that, you know, not many big names there, and he's molded them into, you know, a formidable unit. But yeah, Mickey, you know, I suppose the one thing with Mickey, he's one of these coaches that has never played the game at the sort of highest level, yeah. And I think being a South African coaching Australia, that was a deviation from old school thinking, because the old school way is, you know, especially in Australia and South Africa and New Zealand, in fact, is we're not going to have anyone else telling us how to do our job.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just the fact that they appointed a South African was this whole new age kind of thinking.
Sure.
That whereas, you know, it's an easy one to fall back on now when Mickey cocks up and they say, oh, the bloody South African, this and that, you know.
Graham sloppy seconds, etc., etc.
Yeah, exactly.
So you do raise a good point about foreigners coaching. I know in football, I mean, it's such an open field. You get people from all over, like coaching all over. I think with rugby and cricket, it's a lot more sort of cut and fast. That if you look at Australia, the rugby team now, we talked about it earlier with Campo saying that Deans is the wrong guy because he doesn't understand rugby culture. Again, that was a sort of new school way of going about things, which didn't actually need to happen. I think if they had put more time in someone like an Ewan McKenzie, especially now, you know, he's now lost in this abyss of rugby directorship. What is that?
Yeah, for one thing, it just always seems a vague title by like
Very
club or
vague
franchise
title.
that you go into.
I think it's a better paycheck with less responsibility.
Yeah, and just more contracting of the players and less on time on the field. It's just people's definition of that job varies depending where you ask that question, it seems.
But that was the old.
I think the board wants to talk to someone that knows about the game.
Right.
So
he's a middleman.
And the coach is too busy. Yeah.
Yeah, but the idea being how much involvement does the director of rugby have actually with the training on the field and the tactics, etc. That seems to vary quite a lot.
Yeah, well, I mean, look at Rassie Erasmus. What does Rassie actually do?
Three of us sound like real old farts here.
What, going yearning about the good old days and all these
Stupid
new
job
fad
of-
positions.
There's a guy that cuts the oranges. There's the coach, and then there's the guy who packs the bags.
But Billy, one thing, you mentioned some coaches that have the old school approach, like Graham Henry and Jake White, and have shown success with it. The idea being with me that I find with those guys is that their basics is very old school. They have a very simple way that they want to see rugby being played, or they see it simply and straightforward, and they want it being executed, and they back that vision regardless, and they don't kind of veer from it.
Yeah.
But other aspects of them are quite modern, how they deal with the job. Like, for instance, I thought Graham Henry's handling of the press was a modern technique that a lot of old school coaches wouldn't be able to do. If you looked at when they got knocked out of the 2007 World Cup,
Yeah.
how he kept his job and how sensitively he handled that, the country mourning that, and a lot of the reaction being over the top towards New Zealand getting knocked out. You know, that showed a whole bunch of modern savvy that he needed. Jake
sure.
White is a total like statistics freak from what I hear.
Yeah.
Like, he needs to gather himself around numbers as much as he can. If he can measure a player by a number, he will try to do it within reason, obviously.
Sure.
But he tries to gather up as many stats as he can. Another very modern trait. He's using an old-fashioned principles.
But sure, I think you touch on it. Sorry, but with the principle factor is that you're old school in principle, but you use common sense on top of that. Now, how you structure the media, right? What's a massive part of the game? The media. So that's not. I don't think that's new school. That's just using your head. Stats. Rugby is a game of stats. If you don't know who's getting the turnovers, you don't know how many tackles you're missing. How are you going to ever work on practice the next week?
If you gave like the kind of pro zone type equipment in the old days to rugby coaches of how they could like track players, I'm not sure a lot would use it.
Well, they wouldn't use all of it, but I think the tackle statistics is a good one. If you're if you're losing first phase ball and lineouts and stuff, these are things that you can miss.
I think where Jake was also good, and also I suppose bringing an element, like as you say, his basics are very old school.
Yeah.
But like bringing in guys like Eddie Jones. I mean, he was famous for bringing in the experts where, where he didn't have the skills. Whereas you had, a lot of coaches are sort of almost too old school in a way that they refuse to have any help. And
I think that's more ignorant than old school, actually. I think people often mix the two up.
Or arrogance?
Or arrogance, exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
People want to keep a close ship. I think Heineke has showed a couple of more stubborn traits like that in his early part of his Spock coaching tenure.
And his Bulls coaching tenure, in fairness, as well. They were not quick to get the results when he was there.
Sure, so can of worms topic, this one here. Touching on things like ignorance and arrogance and pig-headedness. Yeah, but okay, Billy, just to kind of not wrap up just right now, although we do have to take a song quite quickly. I've got this theory that we should play a song every 10 minutes, otherwise we'll lose people. As fantastic as we are. If you were to say, if the pros and cons, I mean, if you look at, has there been any sort of successes of new age coaching as such, guys who are thinking out of the box? I mean, obviously Rusty's disco lights spring to mind, and how impactful those were, who knows? Like, Mickey Arthur's rotation policy is silly, I think. It breaks down a fundamental team dynamic. Is there anything else in the world of sport that you can see that is actually being a real sort of pro?
I think, like, when I think of a new age coach, I mean, it's hard to give examples of why I think that, but Gary Kirsten definitely springs to mind.
Yeah,
definitely.
Another one with solid foundations.
Yeah, and he calls himself more of a facilitator than a coach as well. He likes
Man.
to tap into many different ideas of how to play the game and generate himself around lots of strong minds, not just relying on his own. Very modern approach.
Yeah.
And yeah, he definitely, he seems to very much about player empowerment and all that. Whether that is, his results kind of speak for themselves, I guess. So we can't really argue too much with how he does things. But, looking at the sort of teams that he's taken over, a lot of older, very experienced superstars of the game, and he's facilitated their success.
Yeah.
He took over India when the guys were in their prime. Guys like Tendulkar, Dravid, Laxman, Ganguly, all these guys are now gone. The poor guys are left to pick up the pieces. The same when he came to South Africa. He had a very good, old, established base of players to work with. And, his sort of, I think him taking over a young, kind of like what we're seeing with the one day and the T20 side, it's a slightly different kettle of fish when you take over, a bunch of young guys and try and maybe use the same techniques. Perhaps player empowerment at that sort of junior player level is not really what you want. I don't know.
Completely. But I think we're going to wrap up with a cliche, because every sport has one. It gets my goat a bit when coaches, they have a bit of a bad run, and suddenly you hear things like, it's back to basics. But like, why are you deviating from basics in the first time, you knob?
Yeah.
Because if you can learn anything from cliches, it's obviously been done many times before.
It just sounds like a euphemism for Kopperstamp on a Monday for me.
It's like, back to basics. Oh, right. So you've indulged yourself in some harebrained ideas. Now you're actually going to get back to being a coach. I think what we all touched on now, success stories are built on fundamentals. And that's old school thinking, but it's also logic. You can bring in different elements, but you can't take them all in. And I think when you try and reinvent the wheel, like Mickey Arthur, it goes full circle on you. And suddenly you've got guys who don't respect you. They're not sending you notes on your your door at night.
I think there's a
team's worse off.
I think there's also like big stress, which sometimes we get distracted around, like tactics and what to and how to play games, and we just think the tactics on the day beat that team of the game. That's not always true. You look at a rugby game. Sometimes the reason this team beat that team was due to the players bringing it. This bunch of guys beat that bunch of guys just from beating them in the contact or showing slickness of skill, not necessarily the tactics all the time. But we get caught up when a team loses. Why did they lose? You know,
Yeah.
they must have done something correctly. Must have been
Overanalyst,
a
yeah.
bad preconceived idea that occurred. You know, really not always the case.
Yeah.
Very similar with cricket as well. Sometimes a team won because they had more bowlers putting it in the right area and more batsmen that were seeing it better.
Well, the players were better, other ones weren't.
So sometimes the coaches can just be
they
to
didn't have
facilitate
Mick Lewis
that.
playing for them.
Okay, guys, we're going to get back to rocking rock tunes Tuesday. Good topic, though, Billy. We're going to come back with your big fixtures for the week to see what else you're going to be wanting to watch. Listen to Blogs on Balls, AC/DC. No Rocking Rock Tuesday will be complete without them. Also Aussies, huh? Welcome back to Blogs on Balls. Thanks for listening, using your bandwidth, using your late morning on a Tuesday to listen to us rabble on about sport. You can tweet us. We are on full-time Twitter. Well, we are full-time Twitter people. Sean, my co-host here, is at Simply Sean. I almost said something really dirty there. At Simply Sean _. You can get at Sport Billy Says, myself at Follow the Bounce. And of course, throughout the week, Balls Radio is, you won't get a better sort of sporting platform in the world, essentially. They interview the greatest and everybody. Whoever's done something amazing, John Walland will stalk them, hunt them down, nag them to an inch of their lives and get an interview out of them. He is that good, or persistent. I don't know which word you want to use. The afternoon show is now syndicated on 93.8 FM here in Joburg on Mix FM. And then after my show with Sean and Billy every single Tuesday, you listen to Sash Martininga with Gears. As you may have guessed, he talks about cars. And then Di sort of laughs. So she gets paid to laugh. I think we all worked that one out. So Sash Martininga with Gears every single day from 12 until 2 right here on Balls. So, Sean, we're making good progress here. It's 11:45. We've covered a whole bunch. And now we get into the fixtures. I think we've timed this so well this week.
We certainly have. Usually we're still at each other's throats on the bench with the debates at this time.
And then I'm trying to
And
flap
now-
and you get a cup of water in, I'm getting dry mouth, and eventually we all say goodbye, and then Sasha's like on my shoulder. Sasha's not here yet, so we are doing well.
Turning into a slick machine, this show.
Oh, Sasha's playing golf today. Ah,
Does that mean another 2 hours?
no. What could do that 2 hours? We didn't even crack the nut to this charity golf day. It's the first I've heard of it. Okay, Maz. That's it. I'm not bringing you lunch next week. It's all your fault because you're the only one here. Okay, so we get into the fixtures. Earlier on, we had Keegan Kruger from the Pundits, and he is our new football analyst. If you did miss the first sort of half hour of the show, you will find it on the bounce.co.za. We'll SoundCloud it, or alternatively, you can actually watch it again. You'll see Sean and I behind the microphones. We do have webcams. Quite simply the most unflattering form of ever representing somebody.
Speak for yourself, Ben.
I'm more shy than you are, Sean. So we're going to get into the fixtures, and we're going to start with some football fixtures. Keegan did talk about there being Champions League on. 12th of March, that's today, right?
Good
that's
start.
today.
Yeah.
Great start. See, I go into football, I lose all concept. Okay, so today, Tuesday, Barcelona versus AC Milan. Keegan did say that was a big one. 9:45. These are all SA times. Next up, we got Schalke. Schalke 04 versus Galatasaray. That's on at the same time. I'm pretty sure you'll watch the first one, not the second one. And then tomorrow is the Bayern Munich versus Arsenal match. As we've already ascertained, Arsenal haven't got a chance in hell in that one. And then Malaga take on FC Porto. Again, these games are at 9:45 SA time tomorrow night. Which then leads us on to cricket, guys. We won the first ODI. We now have 2 more to come. And the first one is the 15th. That's Friday, right?
Yes, that's right. So Friday and Sunday is this week's 2 1 days.
Friday we take on the Pakistan. No doubt a much more resurgent Pakistan at Supersport Park Centurion. The game kicks off at 2:30. Guys, just your brief thoughts on that. I mean, we did say it was quite a comprehensive win. But Pakistan will definitely come back stronger. They looked a bit out of shape in that one.
Yeah, they did. They looked a little bit rusty. It's just kind of, I suppose it's characteristic of just throwing some inconsistent performances through the tour. Maybe the tour's been getting a bit long for them. But they do have players that can take advantage of conditions at Centurion.
Well, also they got new players coming in. Kakmal came in. He scored all of 6 runs in his last 4 ODIs. Afridi was there. That's that dashing 22-year-old who's played 351 ODIs. Billy, what's your take on this Pakistan one-day side? Do you reckon they got what it takes to win the series?
No, I don't think they'll win the series, but they'll compete in some of the games. I think what I saw some stats on. I think the one big concern for the Proteas is our death bowling. I mean, obviously
yes.
it didn't really get tested in the
always has
first
been,
one.
huh?
It's
Wow.
certainly last couple of years. Last couple of years.
Well, you can't expect Kyle Abbott to come in and fill that role. Whatever happened to Ginger Turan?
I actually
They just discarded him, huh?
I was out in a place called the Bridge Street Brewery on Saturday night after the game, and I thought I saw Prince Harry in the corner. It turned out to be Rusty Turan. He was enjoying a beer and with Yanni Duplessis, of all people.
Oh, interesting. Okay, and then it leads on to Sunday. I love the Sunday day game here. If you have a crack overnight Saturday, you basically just take on couch, basic requirements from there, and you watch one-day cricket, which is where I still think it has a place in the world of sport, purely for hangover potential.
The full 50 over version on a Sunday.
Yeah.
It is a good
Take that, ICC. You tried to disprove my theory right there. So Sunday, South Africa versus Pakistan, 10 o'clock. It's at the Wanderers, the Bidvest Wanderers Stadium. I forgot about that. I thought it was down in Durban. Oh, no, that's next week.
No, it's all stays in the Highveld for now.
Okay,
And then
well,
it's Durban and then Benoni.
Well, if you're in Joburg, I don't think it's sold out yet, so it's always a good day at the Wanderers. It's not as aggressive as Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium, I promise. Okay, so we worked out that South Africa are in the pound seats with that one, which brings us on to Super Rugby. We have 6 games this weekend. Yeah, correct? 6 games, covering the Friday and the Saturday. So, as usual, we're going to give you some predictions, which they might be completely wrong, and you might take them way too seriously, which is always the case. But as Bricktop said in Snatch, if I throw a dog a bone, I don't want to know what it tastes like. I used that once on Twitter. I went right over this person's head. He just went on to tell me I'm not a rugby analyst. Okay, anyway. My personal spats aside. We got the Highlanders taking on the Hurricanes. First up on Friday, 8:35, played in Dunedin. Sean?
This is tough to call. I'm going to go for the Highlanders here. I think they've started really badly, but they've got to turn around soon at home, and they're going to be feeling the pressure quite a lot here.
You would think so, but against the Hurricane side that narrowly lost the Reds away, Steve Walsh helped them with that one. And then they just beaten the Crusaders. But are you going to go with the Hurricanes, or you agree with Sean there on the Highlanders?
It's rough, this one. I mean, it was
a
a
tough one. There's a
weird
couple
game,
of
the
real-
Hurricanes Crusaders one. I thought was very, very odd.
Yeah.
And I really thought the Hurricanes were lucky to win it in the end, as we touched on. So, yeah, I don't know. What do you think, buddy?
Highlanders at home, eh?
Highlanders at home, yeah.
Yeah, I think they'll bounce back from the Cheetahs loss.
I agree. I'm going to go with Highlanders in that one. Yeah, look, we did give them fair reps early in our first show. Actually, we said this team could be the one to watch. They haven't shown it, and I think it's just rusty. Marnonu's still out,
Yeah.
yeah? Knee injury.
Oh. He also
that's
heard
right.
that the Hurricanes have got thrash.
Yeah.
And the Highlanders have a Hall.
Of course, he changed, yeah.
Yeah.
Because when you had Hoare and Thrash in the same forward pack.
That's right. And there's the Hurricanes. That was brilliant.
So we could see a bit of horror and thrash action. this
Indeed.
Exactly.
morning.
Yeah.
would
We'll
have
we'll
thought.
leave that one for the live tweets then, Billy. All yours. Okay, next up we've got the Waratahs versus the Cheetahs. Again, a very tough one to call. This is 10:40 on Friday morning, played in Sydney. Last time these two teams played at this venue, Cheetahs won, huh?
Yeah, that's right. It was quite a low-scoring affair as well. I seem to
was.
remember the Cheetahs having a bit of a breakaway try at the end to flatter the score.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and just say that I think the Waratahs are going to win this. I don't think the Cheetahs can maintain 2 games in a row, despite the fact they've got a lot going for them right now. There's just something about the Waratahs. They're going to bore the crap out of the Cheetahs. A naturally exciting team.
I think it's interesting how you say it's quite a backhanded compliment to the Waratahs of old that you say I'm going to go out on a limb and they're going to beat the Cheetahs at home.
Campo would agree with me.
Yeah, probably would as well. Well, that's 2 really inconsistent performances from the Cheetahs on tour. Last week was fabulous. The week before was awful, although they were probably more jet lagged the week before.
Yeah.
I do.
It's a tough one, huh?
Rafi, but again, I think you have a point here. I think the Waratahs could take
Okay.
this one.
Billy?
Yeah, I think the Bloem Boys will be missing home a bit much, and Waratahs will please Camper and take this one.
But if there was ever a chance for back-to-back away wins, this is it. So look, I'm
Definitely.
cheering for the Cheetahs, but my heart and money is on the Waratahs. Next up, Friday night, 7:10 in PE, Kings versus the Chiefs. Chiefs are going to win.
What? In the bag for the Kings. What are you talking about?
You said it yourself. The Kings can't tackle for 80 minutes every single week. They've done it for 2 weekends going with a bye in between.
Yeah, no.
If they had that guy cheering defense for 80 minutes, they might do it.
That is it. That is the secret we just found. The Kings are fueled by a stadium announcer.
Yeah. No. I think the Chiefs have got this.
Yeah. Again, the bets I made and I spoke about last week, it's not looking so good for me. I said that the Kings are going to take 100. I mean, the Sharks couldn't even score a single try against them.
Look, I'm not saying that bet was smart from me, Ben, but this is very, very early in the tournament here. We
It
are
is
not
early.
20% in yet.
It is
And
early.
a whole
I
lot's going to
still, I
change.
still think I'm getting a payout in that bet. So Billy, point margin then. To be more concise. What do you reckon the Chiefs are going to do?
Less than people expect. I would
Yeah.
say 10 to 12.
I think the Chiefs are going to cut loose, and that fight we saw in the stands is going to be nothing compared to what's going to happen to the Kings this weekend.
I'm not so sure. I'm in between you guys here. I think maybe if putting a number, you don't always know what the margin's going to be here. That's what I hate about it. I was like, I'll guess 20.
Okay,
I would guess
well, let's
20.
go with that. Moving on to the Saturday matches, and a big one to start with, the Crusaders versus the Bulls. Now, if you were to look at this fixture before the tournament starts, you would say Crusaders easy, 15, move on. But now the Bulls have just beaten the Blues, who beat the Crusaders. And I always get caught into this trap of going, okay, well, they beat these guys, so therefore they'll do this.
Yeah,
It
you
means
can't look
nothing
at
in
it
this
like that.
tournament
You
at all.
really cannot look at rugby like that, yeah.
The whole thing is the Crusaders look quite shaky. They've got the side-to-side pattern to play at the moment. Dan Carter's not firing, and they are quite reckless with the ball they've got, as you've seen in their last 2 games, 2 losses. The Bulls, they've just beaten the Blues away. They look quite good and penetrating, which is quite something to say about a team where, let's be honest, we called most of them hairdressers going into the tournament.
They've answered well, the Bulls, I must
Yeah.
say. And they do look like for this instance, they've got a bit of form under them. It's wonderful how this is such an unpredictable game, again. But I do think you got to think of the Crusaders are going to have to turn this around at some point.
Again,
you
when
know.
in doubt,
Some-
Crusaders at home, got to turn it around.
Yeah, so I mean, you can't. It's too hard for me to bet
Yeah.
against. I'll have to bet for the Crusaders, unfortunately, and I'll be really cheering Bulls, definitely.
Yeah. Billy?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Bulls are going to take in confidence, but yeah, I mean, you just have that feeling with the Crusaders. They're going to start firing at some stage.
Yeah, exactly. They will. So it brings us on to our next game, 10:40 Reds versus Force. Reds are going to win that one. Next game, the final game, Sharks versus Brumbies. This could be one of the better ones of the weekend. If the Sharks, again, they haven't scored a try in 2 games. I'm a little bit worried. Not that I'm a fan of the Sharks, obviously being a Stormers guy. Billy, what do you reckon is going to be the difference between them boring the crap out of us, entertaining us?
I heard old Dan Retief on BLOGZ's show yesterday being quite harsh on the Sharks about no tries and all that. But, I mean, you got to remember, Luwazi Mvova was held up over the line. And who was it? Peterson got that forward pass, or Liddick got that forward pass, which was marginal, but it was forward. You know what I mean? And if those had gone to hand, suddenly it's a non-conversation,
No, it's
I don't think the Sharks
It's
are
will
playing
only be 2 tries versus the
It's 2
Kings.
tries against the Kings, making it a non-conversation.
You don't get
And
half,
listen,
you
the
don't get
Stormers
half
haven't
bonus
beaten the
points. there.
Kings yet, have they?
Yeah. Well, they just beat the Chiefs.
Yeah, I think, listen, the Brumbies are going to bring it. I mean, they're an all-round team. They're a bunch of no-namers, but they got some great players.
Yeah, a
and-
really
and-
good
and-
unit. So it's a real tough week to actually pick
Yeah.
these.
This Sharks
But
Brumbies game is
Sharks
the most
at home,
interesting
for
game
sure.
for me by far.
Yeah.
Like how it gives us a real indication of how the Brumbies are going to be in this tournament, how they first came on tour, and how the Sharks respond when not playing at Derby.
You
Well,
also got to think of they're playing in Durban. The handling's going to be woeful.
Yeah.
There's a lot of dew, a lot of humidity. It's probably not going to allow the Brumbies to play their game, and that's going to suit the Sharks.
I would go with Sharks by 5 on this one.
Yeah, I'd
Again.
go more than that. I'd say 8 to 10.
8
Yeah,
to 10.
well, I'll go with that too. I think Brumbies will do well to get a losing bonus point. in my
Well, there you
opinion.
have it. The show will be podcasted. We've got the SoundCloud coming up after this, or just keep on BLOGZ. You can find all our previous shows. This is now our 5th show here, Sean.
Number 5.
Racking
indeed.
them up. Like Butter Dipno did runs back in his prime. Love using Butter analogies. That mean absolutely nothing. Anyways, so you can catch it again next week, 10 till 12, the same time, every Tuesday, right here, Blogs and Balls. To read more about the 3 of us, you can go to thebounce.co.za. My posting's been quite slack of late, but I've been away. Trust me, I'll get back on it. Simply sean.co.za, and then sportbillysays.co.za. We are the 3 bloggers on Blogs on Balls. And we're going to play out now with our final rock song for Rocking Rock Tuesdays. Catch us back next week. And of course, follow Balls Radio as well on Twitter, @Balls Radio. Lots more things coming up on this channel. Very exciting if you like sport and if you like good music. And if you like frank comments, well, this is just the place to be. Catch you back next week.